Welcome to All About Albemarle, the segment where we talk about the things that matter to the people who live, work, and play in the city of Albemarle. I'm David Fath, the Communications Director, and joining me today is Police Chief Jason Bolhorst. Thanks for joining us, Chief.
Absolutely.
You just recently presented APD's annual report, and there's some really important information for people to know about, namely that crime is down once again this year. Can you take us through some of the numbers in the report?
Yeah, certainly. The biggest story is from 2022. Crime in 2023 is down 3.7%. In 2022, we had some historic lows there as well. And overall, in the last 5 years, what's significant is it's down 23%.
Yeah.
And that's the significant story that we want to get out.
Yeah, that's absolutely impressive. And let's talk a little bit about what's behind the progress that we've made.
Well, a lot of that comes from police engagement and activities, being proactive, taking charge and handling things before they become a problem. Also, collaboration within the community, our various partners that are out there within the county of Stanley, and just addressing problems and solving those issues that come up. Another thing I'd like to touch on is the Albemarle Police Department is an accredited agency with CALEA, and that's a national standard that we are accredited in our policies and actions, training. There's a whole caveat of items they look at. This year, we're engaging in becoming accredited through the state as well, and there's not many agencies. There's about 500 law enforcement agencies throughout the state of North Carolina. Less than half of those are CALEA certified, and probably less than half of those are even state and nationally certified.
Yeah, CALEA, often called the gold standard in law enforcement certification. So, great work from everybody on the team to earn that certification, earn that level of reputation. Let's talk a little bit about overall number of calls. What are some of the stats that people should know about there?
Well, we had about 29,000 calls for service last year. That's where we were taking law enforcement actions within the community. And that was a drop since 2022, about 5%. But then if you look at what happened with crime, it decreased. So it makes sense that we're probably going out to less calls for service as well. But with that, the important piece that I want everybody to be aware of, the complaints or any police misconduct. So if we have 20,000 calls or 29,000 calls for service within the community, we had a 0.00051% of contacts that led to an administrative investigation or some type of wrongdoing allegation. So that is minute compared to what, the service level that we're engaged with.
Yeah, so breaking it down by numbers, it would be 5 complaints from citizens and then a total of 10 what you would call supervisory complaints.
Right.
If someone on staff, maybe wanted to look into the way an officer approached a situation. So a total of 15 complaints out of, you said 29,000 calls.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, just to go back to CALEA, what that means, the 10, a more significant number than what our citizens are complaining about. That's us checking and validating what we're doing internally.
Mm-hmm. Chief, one of the things you talked about in sort of the overall message of the report, which, by the way, anybody can find on our city's website at albemarlenc.gov/APD report. There's also paper copies of the report available at City Hall and at police headquarters. One of the things they'll find in that report is your annual message, and it talks about traffic and safety being priorities for APD. What are some of the numbers that you would want to share with folks about traffic specifically?
Last year in 2023, police officers responded and conducted 4,378 traffic stops. And out of those, we issued 1,461 citations. So that's about a quarter of the stops. And the important thing for everybody to understand is the police department is very focused on traffic safety and general complaints that come in from the residents and the folks that visit the city. It's a high priority for us, but we have limited resources. We can't be everywhere, but we are very focused on making sure the streets are safe.
Yeah, one of the challenges I think sometimes with traffic enforcement is perception on, if someone's in their neighborhood and, they say to you, you get a call that someone's going 50 in a 25. Then you go out there and you run radar and you find out actually it may be 30 miles an hour. But when you're standing on a street, it feels really fast to see a car go by. But having said that, if someone does have those concerns, please call in. And our police
Absolutely.
department is able to be responsive and go out and run radar and kind of get a sense of what's actually happening there.
You're right. And at the patrol level as well, the officers have done a really good job on just doing sporadic checkpoints. We did approximately 27 of those last year, so that's about 2 a month. And they do that in random locations and just checking for operator's license registration, making sure there's no driving under the influence issues, as well as looking at equipment and any other minor violations. And again, focusing on educating the public. That's a good piece and a tool for us to do that, education and enforcement action where we have to take that level.
Absolutely. 2023 also marked a significant decrease in the number of overdose cases. Can you walk us through some of the stats on that?
Yeah, in 2023, we had a 55% drop in actual calls for overdoses. And out of those, in 2022, we had 4 overdose deaths. Last year in 2023, we only had 2, so that's a 50% reduction. That's a huge drop. And I know the next question is going to be, why did that happen? How did it happen? It's because the interaction with, again, all the community members throughout the county, mental health, the opioid response to the crisis. Narcan is out there. Every police officer, every EMS, every public safety person has Narcan, as well as, it's pushed out to those that we know that have opioid issues and that are suffering from abuse and addiction, and they're educated better through the county in partnerships. So that's a huge strive that the county and the Albemarle Police Department as well has engaged with.
One sort of piece for context here, you mentioned that steep decline in overdose cases, a drop of 55% year over year. So to give some context, they had a total of 43 overdose incidents in 2023. That was down from a total of 94 in 2022, just to give people the absolute numbers on that. And, there is something that everyone can do to help prevent drug abuse. Can you talk a little bit about Operation Medicine Drop?
Yeah, and that's something the police department has put in place several years ago, but there's a mailbox in our front foyer area where the public can come in and drop off any medication. And again, we'll take anything. No questions asked, you just drop it off. The big piece, if you have any type of painkillers, opioids, or anything, that you don't want to leave those laying around for other hands to get on. So please bring those in to us, drop them off, and we'll dispose of those properly.
Yeah, a couple other notes about Operation Medicine Drop. The fact is that that lobby area where the box is contained is actually open 24 hours a day.
Correct.
So anyone can come by and use that. We do have an evidence custodian that comes in and makes sure that medication is actually disposed of properly. And I noticed this in the annual report for usage on that, drop box. We had more than 181,000 grams of medication that were put in that drop box.
We did.
Yeah.
And our evidence technician picks up weekly out of that. And sometimes because of the full nature of it, she has to do it more frequently. Mm-hmm. So I see her with those bags go by my office every day. And that's whatever she's collecting are drugs that could potentially end up on the street. So that's a huge step for our public to be aware of and what's out there.
Chief, we appreciate your time here. And just as I said before, a reminder, if you want to see this full report, it is available on the city's website, albemarlenc.gov/APD report. There's also paper copies that are available again in the lobby of City Hall and also at APD Police Headquarters. And Chief, I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through the report, some of the highlights here. There's much more available in some of those other places we just mentioned. That's all the time we have this week for All About Albemarle. Don't forget to follow the City of Albemarle on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I'm David Fath. For Police Chief Jason Bolhorst, thank you for joining us.